Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Searching for writings on the wall in this edition of state elections in Haryana, you'd be struck by what isn't to be seen on the walls, or almost isn't: the face and the name of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Nor even promises from him, no Modi ki guarantee, no Modi ka bharosa, nothing like that. The party's campaign tagline is Bharosa Dil Se, BJP Phir Se. Trust with your hearts, bring the BJP again. That's a bit prosaic given the high standards the BJP sets for itself on coining slogans. Plus, it doesn't rhyme. Or as a gaggle of young karyakartas tell me, on the sidelines of a modest rally in a banquet hall, tuk bhi nahi milti. It doesn't even rhyme properly. The most striking discordant note on the walls, however, isn't poetic but visual. It isn't as if Modi is entirely missing, as I said. It is just that he isn't the lead picture in any of the party's posters or campaign stationery. When have you seen that before? The lead picture in most cases is that of the candidate in a constituency. That's close to the phenomenon we had also noted with the Congress candidates in our earlier writings on the wall in 2014 from assembly elections in Haryana. I will share a link with you with the description. The equation has reversed now, but in part because the Congress candidates then had completely dropped the Gandhis. Now Modi is still there, but just about. As I keep saying, he's not the first now, just the first among the equals. I'll explain how. In the top right comes, in slightly smaller size than the candidate's picture, the bearded face of Chief Minister Naib Singh Saini, sworn in just a month before the general elections began in April. Haryana voted in April, as the party belatedly realized how unpopular its two-term chief minister, that's Manohar Lal Khattar, had already become. Cheek by jowl with Saini is the face most of us won't recognize, at least I didn't. As also, I would also say in my defense that I asked a dozen people at the BJP rallies and almost nobody did. The odd one who did was usually an older, senior guy. And this is Mohanlal Badoli. And who's he? He's the party state chief appointed in a belated attempt to damage control after the Lok Sabha setback. When the BJP had lost 5 of the 10 Haryana seats, among the losers was Badoli himself from Sonipat. The only reason the loser was elevated was his caste, Brahmin. After 2 terms in power without needing to undermine its loyal caste coalitions in Haryana, the BJP is now back to the basics. Upper castes and Punjabis, many of them from families of partition refugees, are its mainstay in Haryana. They are also the most numerous along the Grand Trunk Road, where most of Haryana's most urbanized constituencies also lie, and where the BJP won most of its seats in the 2014 and 2019 assembly elections. This zone also has the smallest percentage of Jats. That's very important. And Jats are the ones who the party has alienated. For it to have any chance of winning a third term or collecting enough seats to achieve a hung assembly in which to play, or जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं रायता फैलाना, it must max out along the GT road. That is the challenge. In the 2014 and 2019 elections, both for the Lok Sabha and the Assembly, the BJP didn't need to flaunt its caste base. It could take all of that for granted as long as 2 other factors work. One, Hinduized nationalism, Hindutva, Hinduized nationalism, and second, the name of Narendra Modi. Both were also seen as synonymous. This is why the BJP won a majority, or 47 of the 90 seats in 2014. To understand how this was dramatic, we need to note that until then, the highest number the BJP has scored was 16 in 1967. Most of these 16 were also urban seats along the Grand Trunk Road. It was the rise of Narendra Modi that won the BJP rural Haryana, especially the Jats. They might constitute only about 22% of the voters, but as you would expect, given their political and social domination, they punch way above their weight. This is also an interesting metaphor to use, particularly apt in the land of contact sport, boxing and wrestling. That's where the Haryanvis win so many medals for India. At some point, the BJP got ahead of itself and decided it could do without the Jats. In its first term, the community was sidelined politically or disempowered. In the second, it was completely outsourced to a coalition partner, namely Dushyant Chautala, one of the great grandsons of Devilal, who broke away from jailed grandfather Om Prakash Chautala and his INLD, Indian National Lokdal, to launch his own party, Jananayak Janata Party, somewhat convoluted name, or JJP. That move has bombed, and the Jats, furious at this denial of preeminence, have moved to the Congress party, especially its leader, Bhupinder Singh Hooda. This showed in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections as the BJP lost all its predominantly Jat slash rural slash Dalit seats, but won most of the cities. Notably, it lost both the seats reserved for the scheduled castes in the state. Rural Haryana, Jats and Dalits no longer seem to be in thrall of Narendra Modi. That's the problem for the party. Can we then call this campaign Modi Bachao, Modi Jitao? That the party is now acknowledging this is this campaign's most important writing on the wall. On the banners, where the candidate's picture is the biggest and the chief minister and the party chiefs the next biggest, Modi's is among the smallest. Not just that, he's just the first in a series of 10 tiny mugshots in the top left corner. I recognized the first four and the sixth, and with some difficulty and straining of the eyes, fifth. For the rest, I gave up and asked for help. If you were a candidate in Haryana Civil Services examination and were asked to name the last six of these 10, in fact, you would flunk. I'm quite sure you would flunk too. Let's list others. Modi, Party Chief JP Nadda, former Chief Minister and now Cabinet Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, Cabinet Minister and Haryana election in charge Dharmendra Pradhan, former Tripura Chief Minister and Haryana election co-in charge Biplab Deb, and the state in charge for the party, prominent Rajasthan leader Satish Punia. For the remaining four, I needed help of our senior associate editor Sushil Manav. He's also our Haryana specialist. He's been there for a long time, and much of our Haryana coverage comes from him. However, while he gave me the names don't matter. One is a former Lok Sabha MP, not fielded this last summer, but he's a Punjabi, important. The second, a Rajya Sabha MP from across the Yamuna in Uttar Pradesh, called in here to rally his Gujjar caste votes. The third is a functionary of the state Mahila Morcha, mostly unknown but a banya. And the fourth, an equally nondescript district office bearer for the BJP. It is in this series of 10 notables that Modi's face in his current favorite cap features in exactly the same size as all of them, as all the 9 of them. Just the first among equals. He's the first, but first among equals. It's almost as if we want to protect Modi from any adverse outcome in this election. And you want votes in his name as well, because what else have you got? Shall we then suggest a name for this campaign? Modi Bachao, Modi Jitao. Shield Modi, but make Modi win. All that was essential to Haryana politics, that was superseded by the overwhelming power of Modi, is now back. Caste, dynasty, and defection. Starting with 2003, this will be the fourth edition of Writings on the Wall from Haryana. And you can find them all with the link that I will share with the description. Watching the burst of Modi-led aspiration and confidence in 2014, I had said that Haryana voters might have put identity behind them. as you would expect in what was then India's richest state with a population above 25 lakhs, richest by per capita incomes. That idea lasted exactly a decade. Not bad for me. It has now ended with the relative fading of the Modi power. The BJP appointed a Brahmin chief now and a recent loser at that. In a state where the caste counts for no more than about 7%, if at all. A perhaps unprecedented 11 of its 90 candidates are Brahmins. Sure of your own if you can't be sure of the others. Two small coalitions have also come up, each including one of India's most prominent Dalit leaders, Chandrasekhar Azad with Dushyant Chautala, and Mayawati with Dushyant's uncle Abhay's INLD, Indian National Lokdal. You might want to discount conspiracy theories, although there are many, but any votes that these two unlikely Jat Dalit coalitions pick up will be at the Congress's cost. The fight now can be defined as between BJP's anti-Jat coalition building and the Congress playing down the Jat domination that urban castes fear. Putting a benign, friendlier Huda in front is critical to that. The storied dynasties of Haryana have had books and PhD theses written about them and millions of op-ed articles and analysis. And many obituaries as well over the past decade. Now they are all back. If I listed the names, it might take 1,000 words or maybe 10 minutes. Let's therefore round them off as numbers. 9 from the Devilal clan across 4 parties or symbols. One almost got the BJP ticket but then didn't. We'll come back to him in just a bit. And 3 each from Bansilal and Bhajanlal's clans across the BJP and the Congress party. If you want to choose a burial ground for the BJP's supposed revulsion for dynastic politics, it must be located in Haryana. The one family, one position, one ticket principle is also buried here with Aarti Rao contesting from Ateli. Her father, Rao Inderjeet Singh, is a Union Minister of State and in turn the son of the late Ahir stalwart and once Chief Minister, Rao Birinder Singh. Haryana's love of defection never quite died but is now back in a manner unprecedented even in a state where a champion defected in late 1960s. Gayalal gave us the name Ayaram Gayaram. His son Uday Bhan, by the way, is the state Congress chief now. Forget the prominent ones now, like those from the 3 Lal dynasties who've been on a party merry-go-round for some time. Check the walls in Panipat. The face you see most prolifically on the walls, it is not of a BJP or Congress candidate, it's that of an independent. Rohita Rebdi, that's the name, was a municipal councillor who won the Panipat city assembly seat for the BJP by a margin of 53,721 votes in 2014. Denied the ticket in 2019, her patience now ran out and she defected to the Congress in May this year. Denied there as well, she quit and is now fighting on as an independent. In 2019, Sanjay Agrawal lost the seat for Congress party to BJP's Pramod Vij by 39,545 votes. This time around, he defected to the BJP 72 hours before campaigning ended and extended support to the BJP candidate to whom he had lost the last time. If this doesn't make sense, check out the action last Thursday, a couple of hours before campaigning ended. Young Ashok Tambar, remember him? He was one of Rahul Gandhi's Sipahis. Young Ashok Tambar, who Rahul Gandhi had talent hunted as his Dalit star of the future and even made Haryana state chief at the mere age of 38. He made a grand comeback in the Congress in Rahul Gandhi's presence at a rally at 2:55 p.m. At 2 p.m., Tamar had been speaking at a BJP rally not far away, seeking votes for its candidate instead. This is his 5th stop in a decade. He left the Congress to launch his own party, then joined Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress in Haryana, left it for the Aam Aadmi Party, went on to the BJP, and is now back home when it looks like the Congress is resurgent. You don't need exit polls. Devilal's son Ranjit Singh joined the BJP a month before it contested the Lok Sabha elections. He was given a ticket by the BJP and he promptly lost. Now denied a ticket for the assembly election, He's fighting as an independent. Teach ideology to Haryanvis. All this sounds messy, doesn't it? That's because the factor that provided a new center of gravity to the state's politics for a decade has faded. You can see it in the writings on the wall, the BJP portrait gallery, as also in the falling numbers of Modi's rallies. 4 this time compared to 10 in 2014. For the BJP, it is still about winning in Modi's name if they can without saying so. De-risking or deleveraging of this kind was never the BJP style since 2014. They always went for broke. To that extent, Haryana is again a trendsetter. Any search for what's changing and what isn't, or what has changed and what hasn't in your own home state must also include some childhood landmarks. For example, my high school in Panipat, where I passed my class 10, Sanatan Dharam Higher Secondary School on GT Road. It is still there, frozen in time exactly as it was, the same classroom, the same principal's rooms, everything. It is still affiliated to the Haryana Board of School Education HBSE, which gave me my matriculation certificate in 1971. This hasn't changed, but there is change evident in the same frame. See the frame on your screens. The land next to the old school building, which we sometimes used as an informal playground or just to sort of disappear and loiter, this now has another school, like a sister to the original, albeit a more pampered one. This one is affiliated to the Central Board of School Education, obviously English medium. This is what those with less modest means would prefer. The more modest would still go to the old school. The large board between the two schools flaunts the gallery of meritorious students and toppers. All of them are from the CBSE version, of course. This is change and continuity, all in the same space, in the same frame. The old school building the old school providing education as a minimal need, and the new one to fuel aspiration. A class system, if I might call it, a class system scripted in the same writing on the wall of the same twin school. In the chaotic years of schooling more than 5 decades ago, I passed out in 1971 by the way, it was easy to bunk classes and loiter into what was a quaint old quarter of the city. A bit deep inside sits the beautiful 725-year-old Dargah of Sufi Saint Bu Ali Kalandar, a descendant of the more famous Shahbaz Kalandar of the Mast fame. I find people from all faiths still there tying tying wishing threads, and then spot something I wouldn't have figured about 55 years ago. The tomb of poet Altaf Hussain Hali, Maulana Altaf Hussain Hali, or just Hali, more or less a contemporary of Mirza Ghalib's. Hali was born in Panipat in 1837 and lies buried in the Dargah precincts. A Qawwali is on at the Dargah as always, but change is evident at the imposing ancient entrance. See the picture. A tricolor on the top. It's a writing on the wall for the times as well. By the way, who's the most famous loser in our history, in Indian history? The list could be long and the argument contentious. Many would say Surajuddaula to the British at Plassey, but nobody can compete with the three losers of the battles of Panipat. 235 years apart. It became the battlefield repeatedly as the reigning power in Delhi brought its armies to these flat lands along the western bank of the Yamuna because that provided water to the armies for sustenance. These armies were brought in to stop the invader from the west. In fact, the pattern was set almost 4 centuries earlier by Prithviraj Chauhan, who brought his armies from Delhi to stop invader Gauri, not at Panipat, maybe 100 kilometers or so ahead at the Rhine. However, let me stick to the three battles of Panipat. Of the three losers here, I would argue Ibrahim Lodi is the most significant. Babur vanquished him in the first battle of Panipat in 1526 AD. He ended thereby the sultans, the sultanates, and founded the Mughal dynasty. His grave, that is Ibrahim Lodi's grave, on an uncovered brick platform, was almost an empty stretch away from the city, abutting the GT road. It was also a loitering spot for us urchins. there was always the Archaeological Survey of India board proclaiming that it had been a protected monument since 1919. However, mostly people with nothing to do hung around here, smoking, drinking, whatever. A search for it now took more than an hour. Nobody knew there was a man called Ibrahim Lodi or that such a tomb existed. Tomb. As it turned out, the city has grown around it. The grave only survives because a tiny park with children's swings has been laid out around the grave. Google lists it and takes you in front of the park. But where is the tomb? We stood in front of the park because Google brought us there and asked the owners of shops facing it if they knew where Ibrahim Lodi's tomb was and if they knew there was somebody called Ibrahim Lodi. All of them said they didn't. Still following the old instinct, we looked around and found the mostly hidden signboard. See this on your screen. The park, such as it is, would have outraged the Lodhis who created the magnificent one in New Delhi. It has garbage, clumps of gamblers and drug pushers, a broken metal sculpture of two bearded soldiers in armor, and the model of an ancient cannon with one half of the barrel lost, the other collapsed. Whether it represents the victors or the losers, we don't know. Are they from Babar's army or Lodhi's? Right now, it's the sculpture that's getting lost. A scrawny young Sikh with a sparse open beard figures that we are journalists. You media people can do something to save this place, he says. Nobody has seen a tourist here ever, not even media. All it draws is junkies and on school days, nabalig, which is juvenile kids, boys and girls searching for some privacy. I am, of course, translating it with great understatement. You call this a protected monument? He asks, somewhat rhetorically. I strain to read the faded ASI stone. See how faded it is on your screens. I strain to read it and it says something like, here lies Ibrahim Lodi, etc. This is where he fell. Elements have erased the paint meanwhile. This writing on the wall is stark. Nobody cares for a loser from 500 years ago, even if he is our history's most consequential loser.